Hi, Louise. Would you like to introduce yourself?
I certainly would. Thank you, Simon. I'm Louise, Louise Mosley from NB Coaching, and I support business owners who have set up their business because they've got a huge passion for what they do, whether that's marketing, whether that's accountancy, whether that's photography or whatever it is. They go into business and then they find they're trying to do absolutely everything and they're spending less and less time doing what they absolutely love. And they start to wonder why they've gone into business in the first place. So it's really about helping them to take that step back, identify where they add the value, where they have the passion, and importantly, put in place a plan that works for them, their life, and their business. Obviously, at the moment, it's slightly different. I don't know anybody whose business hasn't changed. I'm working with some people whose businesses have absolutely skyrocketed. They just don't have the time. So trying to help them to find a way through it. Other people's businesses have just completely ground to a halt overnight. So really it's about helping people to put a plan in place that's working for them, whether that's changing the way they deliver their services, whether it's going online, whether it's looking at something completely different. So it's really about the people for me.
Great. And what we like to ask is, how did you get to be MB Coaching?
Oh, well, I'm glad you asked that question, Simon. My background was in pharmaceutical marketing, and I worked for pharma companies for over 13 years. And then in 2008, I decided to have a complete change. And my partner and I moved overseas. We went to Honduras to manage scuba dive resorts. Now, Neil and I had met on a dive holiday and originally had a dream of having our own dive centre. But after 5 years of working in the dive industry, he was an instructor. I was actually running the resort and running the beach bar, which I absolutely loved. So if anyone wants any tips for cocktails, then do let me know. I've got some very good cocktail recipes.
So you'll be behind the bar at the coming out party when we're all released.
Absolutely. I can put together some special cocktails for that one.
Great. Sorry, I interrupted you there.
No,
Louise.
Don't worry. That's fine. No problem. Yeah, we spent nearly 5 years between Honduras, the Philippines and Indonesia, and then we came back to the UK, had a reevaluation, set up another project which I could talk about later, and that's when I set up NB Coaching. And the NB in NB Coaching stands for neutral buoyancy. So if you're a diver, you'll know all about neutral buoyancy. If you're not a diver, when you're neutrally buoyant, when you're diving, you're mid-water. You're not floating up, you're not sinking down. It's the most efficient way to be. It's the most enjoyable way to be. And when you're not neutrally buoyant, you're flapping around everywhere. You're crashing into the coral. You're crashing into your buddy. You're frankly a pain in the butt to dive with. And ultimately, it's too much effort, and you actually, use up an awful lot of air, which isn't great when you're diving. So the concept of neutral buoyancy is really at the heart of the business, and it's about helping people find their flow and find their neutrally buoyant position.
That's brilliant, brilliant. Well, as you know, in the Business Network, we'd like to ask something personal when we go around the table at lunchtimes. So now getting on to that, hobbies, passions, you've hinted on a couple there probably. What do you do in your spare time?
Well, one of my big passions is travel. And everything that goes with that. So whether that's finding out about new people, new cultures, food and drink, big things for me, diving, nature, etc. So that's a big part of what I get up to. And for people in the Business Network, I'll know I've spent the last 6-7 years. It's hard to admit how long it's been. We've been renovating a ruin in Croatia, an old sea captain's house, which we were due to open as a boutique B&B this year. Obviously that's on hold at the moment, but the sea captain's house will be opening its doors and we'll be able to offer a beautiful place for people to come and relax and rejuvenate and reflect maybe on what's been going on this year. So that will be coming. So it's still there. It's just taken us rather a long time.
That's great. And yes, we do feel as if we lived through it in the Business Network. It's great to see the photographs a couple of months ago of the nearly finished article.
Yeah.
So yeah, moving on. Podcasts. I like to listen to podcasts. Have you got any that you listen to or would recommend?
Yeah, I think because I spend a lot of my day listening, I don't listen to as much to podcasts. I'm more of a sort of a reader
Right.
and a watcher of either TED Talks. Although I have got into one podcast recently, which is called the Waking Up app. It's by
Right.
a guy called Sam Harris. He's a scientist, and it's very much looking about mindfulness and the way the mind works. So that's something that I've
Yeah.
just got into
Great.
recently.
Well, that's a new one on me. So again, you led me really nicely into what book would you recommend as a reader?
Well, I've had a look, and I've picked out a couple. One, because I like actual books rather
Right.
than
Yeah.
rather than actual online. And
Kindles yeah.
one book that I really would recommend is Man's Search for Meaning. It's by a guy called Viktor Frankl, who was a concentration camp survivor. Now, it might sound like a bit of a heavy topic, and it is obviously a very serious topic, but it's a very interesting book looking at how we, even if you strip away absolutely everything from somebody, what you can't strip away is people's attitude and their choice of how they react in a given situation. So it's a really interesting book that I would certainly recommend if people are looking for something like that. I've also just started reading Atomic Habits by James Clear. He's a blogger, and some of his stuff is very interesting. It's all about marginal gains, and if you can improve habits, have better habits, actually how can you make small improvements in lots of areas in your life rather than trying to make a big improvement in one of them. So that's something that I would recommend too.
Right. Thank you for those. And finally, words of wisdom. We are in unusual times at the moment, as we've discussed. But yeah, any words of wisdom for the people who are going to be watching this?
I think being flexible in the short term. So keeping that vision, not losing your long-term vision, but being flexible how you get there. I think we're all looking for different ways that we can, work within our businesses, and certainly a changing perspective at this time helps you to look at things slightly differently. So being flexible, looking for opportunities, and supporting people however you can. And I guess at the end of it, being ensuring that we don't know how long this is going to go for, whether it's going to be 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, but being able to look back and saying, actually, I'm now in a better position. In any way that you can make those improvements now, rather than, look back and think, gosh, that was I've totally wasted time. So
great.
I think that's about it.
Well, let's hope it's not 6 months, because I will
run I hope not.
to interview. We're back doing it all over again. Louise, that was fantastic. Thank you so much for that. Thank you.
You're very, very welcome, Simon. Thank you.
Bye.